Thank you for staying with us. This is Brighter Morning with Bo, and I am Bo Tiwari, and our guest this morning is the Attorney General of Trinidad and Tobago, Mr. Faris Rawi, and we're very glad to have him this morning, and we'll have a conversation on important issues. Very good morning to you, AG. How are you?
Good morning to you, Doctor. It's been way too long since we've had a conversation. Pleased to be with you and the listening and viewing public this morning.
No, well, thank you for coming on. I don't have the privilege anymore of joining you in Parliament, but I'm glad that you took the opportunity to join me here on this program. And I'm sure we'll have good conversation this morning.
I can say that the Parliament is not the same without you, quite simply, Dr. Tiwari. And I really sincerely mean what I've just said. I honestly miss the level of debate that you brought to the House, and I'm very pleased to see that you found a different forum, which you note that many of my colleagues from the Prime Minister come down are very pleased to support.
All right. Well, thank you very much for being here. We try to take all points of view into account. We want to hear the views of the government. We want to hear the views of the opposition. We want to hear the views of people who might be seen as even as having a completely different view. And the idea is to build the democracy through information and the contention of ideas. So let us start with what is, I think, an ongoing problem in the country. I mean, it has really taken us from point to point where I think in many ways the population has become a little distressed psychologically about the turn that things have taken. But let us go back to one of the important I don't know if it's the starting point, but certainly one of the particular issues that cause a lot of consternation in the place, and that is the Police Service Commission. And something seems to have gone terribly wrong with that. What is your take on it, AG, as someone who really looks at the constitutional issues, the legal climate and framework of the country, and someone who advises the executive through the cabinet on matters of this kind?
Well, thank you for introducing this topic. It's a very central topic that I think many people agree is exactly at the genesis of some concern in society right now. I mean, you above all persons will remember well that this is not a new issue. Back in 2006, 2007, there was a wide consensus that the mechanism, which is the Police Service Commission, which is constitutionally anchored, and which is the starting point for the appointment of a commissioner of police. Back in 2006, 2007, there was wide consensus that there needed to be reform of that structure. This service commission, which is designed in our democracy to be a protection to allow for independent functionality of certain critical institutions, the others being the Public Service Commission, the Judicial and Legal Services Commission, the Teaching Services Commission, and this one, the Police Service Commission. Originally, they all involved the veto of the Prime Minister. A name would pop up, a Prime Minister would then say yes or no, and that would be the end of the story. When it came to the Police Service Commission, coming out of the learning in Endell Thomas in particular, the consensus was that the person who commands the military forces or paramilitary forces, in this case the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, those people having the police powers given to them under law and under common law, those people having the ability to prosecute you, to detain you. The feeling in 2006, 2007 was that there should be a more transparent exercise for the appointment of a commissioner of police. And therefore, this Police Service Commission came about with a very different step in law, in the Constitution, in the Supreme Law, being that the Police Service Commission's exercise of its functionality would come to the Parliament and there'd be an actual debate similar to the US senatorial conferment and confirmation settings. This particular structure now has found itself into similar experiences we've had. We've had a collapse of an integrity commission before. We've had change out of commissions before. On this particular occasion, the exercise of two things came into coincidence. Number one, the manner in which we appoint a commissioner of police. And number two, the service commission itself, the entity that does this job, has taken a spotlight. The structures that have happened so far involve Trinidad and Tobago witnessing the workings of a constitution which have been confidential, which they always are. And in the confidence, we notice that the Police Service Commission has to go about its work to ensure that it does its job in a confidential setting. In that confidential setting, they go about their understandings and workings, and they then report it to the President of the Republic. The President of the Republic takes a list and sends it to the Parliament. We have had a collapse of a service commission on the basis that it keeps its affairs in a confidential setting. That found its way into the public domain. Whatever happened inside the Service Commission is beyond the government. Certainly it was beyond the Office of the Attorney General. I can speak to nothing that happened there because their interactions are only constitutionally with the President's office. They work independent. They have a director of personnel administration that manages their affairs. And in that setting, the current commission had an internal disagreement which came into the public domain. The papers carried certain conversations, and that commission came to an end. When we speak about service commissions today and the Police Service Commission, there is also the additional issue of the appointment of the current Office of Commissioner of Police. In the case of Mr. Griffith, he was appointed as an acting Commissioner of Police coming to the end of his tenure. We went to the Parliament. We took steps to allow for the appointment of an acting Commissioner of Police in a simplified fashion. And what we had happen quite simply is Mr. Ram Logan approached the court and said that that appointment was to be interpreted by the court. He asked for the court to interpret the Constitution, not the orders that were in existence. When the court looked at the Constitution, the court told Trinidad and Tobago that the manner in which appointments of Commissioner of Police have been happening since the year 2009 have been entirely wrong. So the court made a pronouncement, Madam Justice Kangaloo, that since 2009, all governments, including the one which sat in the period 2010 to 2015 under Mrs. Prasad Bisesa, have been appointing the Commissioner of Police wrongly, and the court therefore struck out the 2009 appointment process order, as a result of which we currently have not only a Commissioner of Police office vacant, but we have had, with the collapse of the Police Service Commission itself, the need to repopulate a commission to get to that new appointment level. So that is it, put in a very sterile sort of way.
Okay, thank you for that explanation and exposition. There are two issues that I want to come back to, but I want to follow up with some other questions before I do. I want to ask some questions about the President's, Her Excellency, the President's position, in which she wrote to the Commission, the Police Service Commission. And I also want to ask about some other matters involving your own interaction with people in the Police Service Commission. But I want to get to what is the solution to this? Can this collapse, we've had all the commissioners resign. It has now collapsed. The President has begun the process of recommending people to the Commission. What needs to be done to put this right, given what has transpired so far? Can it really be put right?
Well, I think it can, and I say so based upon historical reference. Let's remind ourselves that we had other service commissions collapse. You will no doubt remember the Justice Hussain Integrity Commission, which collapsed when Mr. Justice Ventor left that commission, resigned, other members then resigned, that commission collapsed, the Integrity Commission. You'll remember the Integrity Commission under Madam Justice Barnes, Monica Barnes. That commission collapsed after a court decision. There have been many instances where commissions have collapsed. There have been instances where governments have collapsed. As you will recall, when we saw the fracturing of the UNC team, when Mr. Ramesh Lawrence Maharaj and others left and the birth of the COP came about, and you had UNCA and UNCB. So in a democracy such as ours, it is not uncommon for there to be a collapse of institutions and then the reappointment of institutions which have had a better tenure. So whether it's a government, as in the case of the fractures that happened, whether we had the crossing of the floor, which you will recall, you've had a very long parliamentary experience, or the crumbling of a commission. In this case, there is a solution. The solution is the appointment of a new commission. There are 4 nominees that are before the parliament that ought to be put onto the order paper. To populate the commission, you need 5 members of the commission. Once you have 5 members of a commission, they go off and they do their job. So I don't think that the constitutional arrangements that we have proven us to be in a position where we abandon ship. The independence of the Police Service Commission is written into the Constitution. Its membership needs to be attended to. It's not the first time we've had a commission collapse in our history. We've had integrity commissions collapse. We've had governments affected by structural elements, and we have come back from those scenes by a retooling and a re-effort, but we have not, except for this crossing of the floor legislation, we have not really attended to any other arrangement other than repopulating, and I think that it can work.
But don't you think that, I mean, given that Justice Kangaloo has basically struck down the principle of the Police Service Commission appointing a commissioner of police on its own, given the letter of the president to the commission, in which she said that she did not see a role for herself, given all of these developments and given the pronouncements of Justice Kangaloo, don't you think that perhaps some revision of the law is necessary? A rethinking of the law?
Let me be clear. I was answering your question as to the Service Commission itself.
Yes.
If we shift the target a little bit differently to the appointment of a commissioner of police, that's a different question.
Okay.
I absolutely agree that the manner in which we appoint a commissioner of police, in particular on an acting basis, that we need to have some amendment of the Constitution. And let me explain what I mean by that. The structure of the Constitution to populate a service commission and to allow a service commission to do its job, that was the question I just answered. I believe that that is robust enough to be unaffected. Madam Justice Kangaloo was invited to consider the appointment of Gary Griffith by an interpretation of the Constitution. In that case, Mr. Ram Logan went to court for Ravi Balgobin Maharaj and said, I note that Mr. Griffith has been appointed by this 2021 order, and I have no complaint with that order, but I want you to look at the Constitution, and I want you to tell me whether the Constitution requires all appointments, including acting appointments, to be approved by the affirmative resolution of the House of Representatives. In that case, I was the defendant in the matter, the Office of the Attorney
Yes.
General. We went to the court at the request of the president. We said we join issue with the case brought by Mr. Ram Logan, and we want you, the court, whilst you're looking at Mr. Griffith's appointment, because Mr. Ram Logan asked for Mr. Griffith's appointment to be held null and void on the basis that the Constitution required something, not the order. We went to the court and said, while you're looking at the Constitution, I want you to reflect upon the 2009 acting appointment order by which successive governments since 2009 have had the Service Commission by itself appoint an acting commissioner of police who was a deputy commissioner of police. The president was the one that raised that issue quite properly. The Office of the Attorney General represents the president in court proceedings, and we put that issue before the court. And the court said the Constitution requires all appointments, acting or substantive, to be the subject of an affirmative resolution of the House. That is a debate to say yes. The Office of the Attorney General joined in supporting that point of view, because when we looked at the interpretation section of the Constitution, it plainly sets out, when we were invited to look at the issue, that that should be the process, and therefore we agreed with that should be the process in law, and the judge struck out the 2009 order. Now, you would know, as a member of the cabinet in the period 2010 to 2015, that there were approximately hundreds of acting appointments done by the Service Commission for a commissioner of police. I'm sure that you can publicly state that you're aware that nobody raised any issue that that was wrong. Not Mrs. Prasad Bisesa, not Mr. Ram Logan, none of the very eminent lawyers that sat in your cabinet, including Mr. Justice Volney, raised that issue, because there is a point of view that the Service Commission ought to be able to do temporary appointments by itself. For instance, the Police Service Commission's attorney, Mr. Russell Martineau, Senior Counsel, who has represented the Service Commission for years, Mr. Martineau's view in court on this matter is that it is proper for the Police Service Commission to be able to act on temporary basis without reference to the Parliament. Say, for example, a commissioner of police goes away for a weekend or gets sick. Mr. Martineau's argument in the court was that it is ludicrous for the entire Parliament to convene. Let's say the Parliament is dissolved. Let's say there's an election. Let's say they're on recess. Mr. Martineau's submission, which is supported by some case law, in particular Privy Council authority involving the Fire Services Association, Fire Services Commission appointments, that case law lends itself to that point of view. Now, when I say that the law is therefore in need of amendment now as a result of Madam Justice Kangaloo, let me explain what I mean. It is clear that there needs to be a replacement of the 2009 order for temporary appointments, acting appointments, by saying all acting appointments can come from the DCP's level, but must now go to the Parliament for confirmation. And that order, in fact, is one that I'm working on as we speak. But secondly, the Constitution itself is in need of amendment in light of the judge's recent judgment. And what do I mean by that? The Constitution right now, Section 123 of the Constitution, sets out that all appointments, whether it's temporary or substantive for Commissioner of Police, have to come to the Parliament. And there is now the proper opportunity for us to go back to the Constitution, ask for a special majority, and amend the Constitution itself to allow, for instance, for temporary appointments that don't cross 3 months or 6 months by the Service Commission itself, so that what I call the temporary common sense argument can prevail. That is where the strictures of time do not allow for a parliamentary confirmation of the office holder. That is where you need somebody to act for a very short period and you give it to the Service Commission to act in those circumstances. So I hope I've made it a little bit clearer now.
Yeah, well, I see where you're headed, but you mentioned three things. Huh? One is the attorney, in relation to the Attorney General's role. I think people in Trinidad and Tobago generally know that the Attorney General advises the Cabinet of Trinidad and Tobago and therefore the government in its executive capacity. But in this particular instance, explain how intensely you were involved in advice to the Police Service Commission. Explain how you are involved in legal matters in which the President, Her Excellency the President or any President has concerns. And what was your role in putting together the team that would engage the issues in the court of Trinidad and Tobago?
Sure. So the Attorney General is the advisor to the Cabinet, but the Constitution sets out what the Attorney General does. The Constitution sets out that the Attorney General is the representative for the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago in all civil proceedings. Any civil proceedings against the state are brought against the Attorney General. If there are criminal proceedings, the criminal proceedings are brought against the state. If there are criminal proceedings, the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions has specific functions in Section 90 of the Constitution. The President is the head of the executive. So the President is the head of the Parliament. The President is the head of the executive. The President is immune from suit in Section 38 of the Constitution. All proceedings against the President are brought, except for certain very rare circumstances, are brought against the Attorney General's office. So the Attorney General is the legal representative of the state. In this particular matter of the constitutional interpretation and what the President did or did not do with a list that came or a list that was withdrawn, the Office of the Attorney General represents the President's office. This is standard procedure. I'll give you an example. The Marcia Ayres Caesar matter, which was recently heard, the Office of the Attorney General represented the Office of the President. This has been the case since independence came to republicanism, and at republicanism where we created the Office of Presidents. In the particular case, the Office of the President sometimes can have independent advice. In the appointment of Mr. Griffith as the acting Commissioner of Police, the Office of the President received its independent advice from its in-house attorney, Ms. Nancy Arno. The Attorney General's office did not advise Her Excellency the President, and only Ms. Arno advised the President's office. As you will notice in the public domain, the letters that came from the Office of the President were under the hand of its legal advisor, Ms. Nancy Arno. In the case of the Police Service Commission, the Attorney General's office has no role whatsoever. I and the Office of the Attorney General gave no advice to the Police Service Commission. They were represented by Mr. Russell Martineau, Senior Counsel, who is an eminent Senior Counsel and whom has represented the Police Service Commission and other service commissions for decades as a standing attorney for them. In the matter before the court, the Office of the Attorney General was the representative of the views of the Office of the President by way of written instructions received by me from Her Excellency the President. I was invited to put certain issues before the court, which I did. My team of attorneys was headed by Mr. Douglas Mendez, Senior Counsel, and we dealt with that, Mr. Rashidas as well, by looking at the sobriety of the positions put into the court. It was a very novel position that no government had looked at before. When we looked at the case that was brought, even though it was a very, how should I say, it was odd to see Mr. Ram Logan properly come before the court to say that he held the view that the Constitution required all appointments to be done by affirmative resolution. I mean, look at the irony of that. Mr. Ram Logan was the Attorney General that you served with, who watched the operation of Mr. Stephen Williams acting as an appointed Commissioner of Police without reference to the Parliament. And for 5 years and 3 months, your own government, just like another PNM government after it, watched the operation of the Constitution in the opposite way that Mr. Ram Logan came to court. Now, there's nothing wrong with that. Constitutions are constantly reviewed. Laws are constantly reviewed. What is held to be a law that is good today is sometimes struck out tomorrow. So
Yes,
I take
I
no
agree.
shot at Mr. Ram Logan. He was right in the point of view that he came to court. And the judge noted that she found it quite surprising that the Attorney General was agreeing with him, because when I looked at what Mr. Ram Logan had said, in the manner in which he said it in court, I was compelled to agree that he was absolutely correct in his approach. And we broadened the question accordingly. I should let you know there are some very important cases that are about to come out of the Privy Council on our Constitution itself. So on the 2nd of November, there is a case called J. Chandler. That is a case that is concerning the death penalty and whether it is saved law. That's going to be decided next week by 9 members of the Privy Council, looking to see if the saved law that allows you to hang someone for the offense of murder is in fact still good law. Now, you know, because it's been upheld by the Privy Council in the case of Matthews, that our law has survived on the basis that Section 6 of the Constitution saved it. But it may very well be that next week that position is reversed. What's going on in our country is that there are very few opportunities for sober debate. There's a lot of bacchanal, there's a lot of name calling, there's a lot of personal attack, but there is very little forum for genuine reflection on who we are and where we are in a sober light, where people understand that laws are constantly under challenge and constantly change.
Well, I want to agree with you on that. We've tried to provide this forum for precisely that issue and to address that missing ingredient in the democratic process in Trinidad and Tobago in the public sphere. And I want to agree with you on your position. I want to I'll put now on the screen the letter from Her Excellency the President to the Police Service Commission. I think that was on October 12th. And I will just raise a couple of issues with you. I'm sure you're familiar with this, right? Go ahead, scroll it. So here she is raising the issue of Legal Notice 183 of 2021, paragraph 4. And this has to do with the temporary appointment of a police commissioner and a deputy commissioner. And she says that when she reads that, she does not see any role for herself. I'm just summarizing now. And go ahead.
So
then,
let me put that
just
into,
one second. Just one second.
Sorry.
And in the second part, she raises the issue of 103, Legal Notice 103 of 2009, which she said that in a way that it would be contradictory to Legal Notice 183 of 2021. As it turned out, Justice Kangaloo struck down basically both issues in declaring the issue null and void. So first of all, speak to that issue. Secondly, speak to those issues, because you're dealing with two separate things, 209 and 2021. And speak to the issue as well of whether in fact that letter triggered the withdrawal of the merit list from Her Excellency the President, if you are able to speak to that. And thirdly, in the approach of the legal representatives of the Police Service Commission, a compromise outside of the court and with the blessings of the court was being sought prior to the decision by Justice Kangaloo on the Ravi Balgobin Maharaj's suit against the police services Police Service Commission's power to appoint an acting commissioner of police. So, I mean, I've raised a number of issues there, AG, but that is because I know that you can tie in these issues well, you understand the law, and I'm giving you the opportunity now to speak to the letter, the issues there, and the issues surrounding the consequence of that letter. Yeah.
Sure. I got cut off for a second there. Am I back with you properly now?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Did you hear the question?
Yes.
On the preamble? Right, okay.
So there are several issues that come out of that discussion, and I think they're very important issues, so thank you for the opportunity to address them. First of all, the President's submission that there was no rule for the President upon her reading of the 2021 order. Secondly, Justice Kangaloo's treatment of the 2021 order and the 2009 order. And then fourthly, whether there was a withdrawal of the list on the basis of this position or otherwise, if I'm aware of some of those things. So let me deal with those separately. The judge took the point of view in that letter that having received the list for acting appointments, which the judge received and considered, the judge felt that paragraph 4 of the 2021 order did not allow
I think AG, I don't even know if you can hear me, but I think the problem is on your side. I don't know if it's with the Wi-Fi or the internet. I'll take a break and see if we can get you back on.
Welcome to Lifetime Solutions, where you can trust your roof to us. Our services include custom fabrication, steel framing, roofing installation, on-site roll forming, roofing maintenance and services. Call 223-ROOF or 223-7663 for a quote today or visit our website www.lifetimesolutionstt.com. Lifetime Solutions. You can trust your roof to us. Call 223-ROOF or 223-7663 for a quote today or visit our website www.lifetimesolutionstt.com.
You did the right thing. So now we're giving you things. Republic Bank thanks you and wants to reward you for getting vaxxed. Win $5,000 in prizes every week, plus one of 2 cars in December. You took care of your health, and now we're taking care of you. $5,000 and a chance to win a car. See press and log on to republictt.com for details.
Mangalese Trading Company Limited. Specialist in PVC ceiling, gypsum ceiling, suspended ceilings, medallions, lights, metal framings, and SPCS flooring, known as vinyl plank. Now introducing Mangalese Foods, wholesale and retail, distributor of the family brand food items. Our range of products include rice, sugar, chickpeas, split peas, and soybean oil. Mangalese Foods deliver exceptional products. We offer timely and efficient service. We are located at 9 Francis Lala Road, Charlieville, Chaguanas. Contact us at 672-9889, 740-5569, or 336-4373. Mangalese Trading Company Limited.
Om Jai Lakshmi As we celebrate the festival of light over darkness, let Magic Mist Services Limited take away the hassle of your Diwali home cleaning and maintenance needs. With our team of professional service team members, we will ensure your home receives the magic touch. Give us a call today at 638-6675 or 332-5522. Shub Diwali from Magic Mist Services Limited.
Yes, AG, we got cut off a little bit, internet problems on your side, but let's
Yes,
give you
thanks.
a chance to
Good.
present.
Good to be back. So I was on the first point of the role of the president. The president felt that she did not have a role inside of section 180 of legal notice number 183 of
4,
of 2021. I'm not sure if our connection is still within good parameters. Are you? Yeah. Okay.
I'm
good.
hearing you clearly,
I think
and you're coming off clear.
Thank you. I think that the president respectfully should have referred herself to the Constitution. When you look at the Constitution after the 2021 order is heard, you go through it. You go back to the Constitution, because when the president receives the list, the president should have looked at section 123. What happened is that the judge clarified that in any event, it is acceptable that there are 2 points of view. Mr. Martineau's point of view for the Police Service Commission, a very heartfelt point of view, is that there is nothing wrong with acting appointments not going to Parliament. There is an entire school of law on that basis. If we wanted to appeal this, which we're not, perhaps it could have been clarified. We think that it suffices that the law has been clarified, because they're 2 very heartfelt points of view. So the clarification to be given is that the judge did not strike down the 2021 order. The judge upheld the 2021 order. The judge gave a very curious statement, saying that she felt that paragraph 4 of the 2021 order was superfluous. That's the first time that I have ever heard, or any of my attorneys have heard, of a judge reflecting on law as being superfluous and therefore removing a part of a law. You only remove a part of a law if it is ultra vires the law or ultra vires the Constitution. In any event, we can live with it, because what the judge effectively was saying, look, you don't really need paragraph 4, because the Constitution in the interpretation section says acting appointments are included in substantive appointments, and they must all go to the Parliament. The judge properly struck out, and the president properly reflected upon the 2009 order. The 2009 order removed any reference to the Parliament. It was simply the Police Service Commission, of its own volition, without reference to the Parliament, can fill the post of Commissioner of Police with an acting Commissioner of Police using a Deputy Commissioner of Police. And the judge and the president agreed. The president pointed it out. When the president pointed it out, I thought the president was 100% correct, as did my legal team. And the judge struck out 2009 order, giving everybody the point of view that it's been done incorrectly since 2009 by every government that has sat in office. Again, that's not an uncommon thing where clarification to the law is brought. In relation to the circumstances now that come about on the Police Service Commission and whether there was a withdrawal or not, I think it's important to note that right now, post Her Excellency's public statement, which came in the newspapers after Madam Justice Kanglu had given her decision, the president provided a significant amount of clarification. There were 2 lists that went to the president. If you read the statement coming from Her Excellency, there was an initial list which was withdrawn. That's list number 1. And there was a second list which was for the acting appointments. The president received that list and, looking at the law, sent it back for the commission saying she has no role to perform please go about and
That is
appoint Mr.
correct,
Griffith
yes.
as an acting commissioner. So there were two lists. What I can make it clear is that that is Her Excellency acting of her own volition on the only matter before her, which was the second list. The issue about whether a list can be withdrawn, I think a list can be withdrawn. Persons who give something can ask for it to be returned in any circumstance. For instance, you would be aware, Dr. Tiwari, that in Parliament you may file a motion and then withdraw a motion. You may file legal proceedings and withdraw legal proceedings. So the giving of a list by an independent service commission and it being withdrawn by that commission, that's a matter that I think is permissible. I'd like to state publicly, I know nothing about the circumstances of that list having been given or withdrawn, nor do I pour any scorn upon the fact that it has been withdrawn, because I think it is within the parameters of persons who give something to ask for it back. And the president has made that absolutely clear. That is such an important observation because it feeds the motion which the leader of the opposition brought to the parliament to seek to impeach the president. Because at that point, with the president having clarified what happened, the grounds for the motion that Mrs. Prasad Bisesa laid fell apart. And therefore, that had a whole other conversation that we can go in as to the propriety of seeking to impeach the president in the manner that it occurred or not.
Well, we could have another conversation on that, but we are coming to the end now, and I'm going to ask you a hard question because some of it really has to do with the opposition views about you, and those views are not nice. For instance, the opposition often characterizes you as an incompetent AG. They suggest by implication that you are secretive and deceptive with public information, that you draft poor legislation, and that you are a bad lawyer in court. And as a legislator, you do not even have respect for the constitutional provision for special majorities in certain kinds of legislation. What do you have to say about those kinds of allegations, accusations, and charges by the opposition? This is going to be your last response, okay? We're going to have to break after that, yeah.
Sure. First of all, that's par for the course. I've now been in frontline politics for 12 years, going on 12 years. I have never received a compliment from Mrs. Prasad Bisesa, ever. Mrs. Prasad Bisesa has attacked me for 12 full years straight. Mrs. Prasad Bisesa's idea of a great attorney general that she has publicly stated is Mr. Ram Logan. I do not join Mr. Ram Logan in being the subject of 2 criminal charges, one for witness tampering and one for misbehavior in public office and legal fees kickbacks. Therefore, I am extremely comfortable in being in Mrs. Prasad Bisesa's bad books. If I was in her good books, I'd be worried. So that's par for the course. Let's deal with the law. I challenge Mrs. Prasad Bisesa to point to any law that I have drafted as Attorney General, excluding the 2 minor reflections on law. Number 1, in the 2015 selection of Commissioner of Police Order, the case of Haridat Maraj, there was a small amendment to the 2015 order, which was open to challenge, but which we left open. And now, secondly, Madam Justice Kangalu's reflection on the 2021 order, which was upheld. Other than those 2 instances, a very minor adjustment where I believe Mrs. Prasad Bisesa was wrong and the court could have reversed its position. There is no other law that Mrs. Prasad Bisesa can point to as a matter of fact that the government has brought to the parliament, landmark legislation that she can point to. So that's just all nonsense. In relation to legal proceedings, I am very comfortable in the effect that I bring to the work that I do, so long as I have the support of the party that I represent and the Prime Minister's confidence. I'm quite satisfied with that. So in summary, I lose no sleep over Mrs. Prasad-Bissessar or the UNC's reflections on me. They are entitled in our democracy to make very robust criticism. I notice that there are few politicians, and I'm sure you will agree with this, that receive the amount of attention from the entire opposition the way I do. But I'd just like to tell you, if Mrs. Prasad-Bissessar's view of a great AG is Mr. Ram Logan, I don't want to be her Attorney General. In any universe that could happen in, I would respectfully just disagree on any appointment that way. So I'm quite comfortable in what I do, and it'll be tested in the courts. I think that our decisions have stood up. There is no case of the Constitution having been abused. We bring law that requires special majority support when it is required. You would look at the package to deal with Global Forum, you look at the anti-terrorism bill, you look at a number of pieces of law, and where we have to remove provisions that offend the Constitution and go with simple majority because that's all that we can pass, then that's what we've done. So I would challenge Mrs. Prasad-Bissessar on the facts, quite respectfully.
All right, I hear you. Has the opposition filed a motion of no confidence in you in Parliament?
Yes, we currently have a motion of no confidence in Minister Diyal Singh, in Minister Young, in me. I'm told that one on the Prime Minister is coming. They brought a motion of no confidence on the Speaker. They brought I believe, a motion of no confidence, I stand to be corrected, on the President of the Senate. They brought one on Franklin Khan. They brought a motion of no confidence against me in 2016. This is all just par for the course.
Okay, and you are in no way disturbed by that?
I could never be disturbed by Mrs. Prasad-Bissessar.
Okay, now I'm going to close on this issue, and you have to be very, very brief, although it is a very deep and potent issue. Are we in a constitutional crisis in Trinidad and Tobago at this time?
I don't think we are. I think we're in a political polarity that has severe consequences. I think that our politics does not lend itself to discussion of issues. I think that we are focused upon personalities. If you look at the question just before this one about Mrs. Prasad-Bissessar's views on me, on the UNC's views on me, you hear a lot about how I look, how I talk, who my family is, how I dress, what my children look like, what my wife look like, where I live. But you don't really hear any substance or facts on the issues. You hear allegations that are very general in nature. We have a very divisive form of politics. I call it a bipolarity. It's not uncommon to democracies. You can see it in North America. You can see it in Brazil. You can see it in the African continent. I think that humanity is now swept up by instantaneous messaging where the truth is a casualty to opinion. And it's more about who brings information first and not whether the information is correct or not, because we now have attention spans that are fed by things like Instagram, etc., of 10 seconds long, where you get a dopamine hit each time you read a headline. So I think we're in a dangerous communication space globally. I don't think that Trinidad and Tobago is in a constitutional crisis. I think that what is required is a measure of sobriety, such as this program, where you can have discussions on issues and perspectives.
All right, AJ, I want to thank you very much for taking the time to be with me this morning. I must say that I thought the conversation quite straightforward and forthright, and I want to thank you for being here as my guest. On another occasion, I will invite you. I hope you will come, and we can discuss some other issues on the program. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much, Dr. Tiwari, and for this opportunity. And you have certainly my commitment to attend anytime you invite. It was a pleasure to be on with you this morning.
All right. Thank you very much. And this is Brighter Morning with Bo. I am Bo Tiwari, and this is MCTV. I want to say that I did invite a member of the opposition to be on the program tomorrow, and that person, member of parliament, that person was not able to make it. I will make an effort again to get an opposition response if I can, and we will see how that goes. I want to thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. We'll take a break now, and my next guest is Mr. Garvin Hira, who used to be the head of the NOC, the National Operations Command Center, and we will be talking to him about national security issues.